Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody out there is having a good day. Welcome back to another edition here of Intuitive Angling. Much appreciated you guys checking the video out. And got a really good show for you guys today. I'm going to give you guys some tips and advice on how to fish the dock floats. The floats on the docks that actually make the dock float. These are great bass habitats under a lot of different conditions, different times of the year. Most every lake has got some type of dock, whether it be marina docks or residential. So I'm going to give you guys some good tips on that. I think you guys might find it interesting. So anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you guys around this dock here, show you a little bit about the float setup and how the bass position on them. We've done several videos in the past around docks, but specifically in this video I want to target the floats because they're one of my favorite pieces of cover to fish. So here we go. Guys, one of the things you have to analyze first is the overall anatomy of a dock, as far as, you know, how it's set up, how the floats are constructed on it, and that gives you a good determination of where you want to fish. Now in general, what you have is you have floats that support the walkway here. Now these are docks that are floating docks. They're not the piling docks, but like I said, almost every lake's got them. So you've got part of the structure that support the walkway, and then the rest of it will actually support the actual dock itself. Now, back in the day, all these floats were made out of styrofoam, and they were really good fish habitats because the styrofoam, you would have algae grow on it, and eventually you would have like little plants and limbs and stuff grow off the styrofoam, which brought in a lot of fish and shade bait fish. But styrofoam's not used for docks anymore. They use the plastic. It doesn't quite have the fish holding ability that old styrofoam did, but this is a lot more environmentally friendly. But still, they provide great habitat because of the shade they provide. So I'm going to talk on the shallow part, and we'll work out deeper here. Guys, the floats on the walkways are my favorite part of the dock to fish. I've caught so many big fish off of these shallow walkways, and I'm talking about parts of the walkway float where you can see the bottom there. These are really good areas as long as the water temperatures are between, say, 55 in the spring, and then when they fall below 55 in the fall. So as long as the water temperature is over 55 degrees, bass will use these floats over here on the walkways. Like right now, it's summertime, there's a lot of bluegill that spawn around these things, keeps the bass shallow like that, even regardless of the water clarity that you have. A lot of times, you know, the technique I use is based upon the water temperature. My favorite is skipping a wacky rig up there if the water temperatures are like below 70. But this time of year, I prefer a heavy jig. I use the block that's old school, and the 5/8 ounce green pumpkin, pitching it and flipping it up there in the shade. And normally, as soon as it hits the water and falls under those floats, that they get it. Now, as you move deeper on the float, this is another key area of the floats right here. It's the inside part where the walkway attaches to the dock here. This is the most complex part of the dock, and this is a really, really sweet spot. Although it's difficult to fish because a lot of times you'll have these cables running across the water, and most of the time you have multiple cables that come across here. So it's a really difficult place to fish. So I want to show you guys the key area. See that little, if I can zoom in on it there, that the area, the little opening there between the walkway and the dock, that's where those big fish live right there. And it's very difficult to get a cast in there, but if you can pitch and flip a jig up in that little corner there, that's a great way to catch some big fish there. Now, as you move farther out on the dock here, this becomes less productive in my opinion, because as a lot of it depends on the water depth. The deeper that the dock is on the end, the fewer fish I catch overall with the thing. Now, one of the ways that I like to fish out here is when you talk about fishing the deeper part of it, sometimes the fish are going to use different depth columns. If it's shady, they may be right into the styrofoam and you can get them on a top water, but most of the time I like to make a long cast, like parallel down to the outside edge and across the front of the dock with like a medium running crankbait, or like bringing a swim bait across there or something like that. And I'll always keep an eye out for brush around these floats and underneath them, which makes a big deal. Now, another thing you need to consider on this is two other variables about water clarity. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Now, water clarity is a huge factor as far as determining the technique that you need to use on these docks. And most of the time, it's, you know, it ranges on depending upon the lake you're fishing, anywhere between a foot of visibility and anywhere between 5 foot of visibility. So the techniques that I use on docks, it's totally determined by water temperature and water clarity. Probably my favorite bait to use around a float, regardless of whatever the water clarity is a jig. You know, anywhere between a 1/4 ounce to 5/8 ounce, depending upon the time of the year. The colors dependent upon the water clarity. The green pumpkins and the browns if the water's clear, black and blues if the water is, you know, has a little bit more stain to it. But the reason I like a jig is a lot of crawdads live around these docks, and you can fish a jig on the bottom or you can swim it for suspended fish. So it's a really, really versatile bait. If the water visibility is greater than 2 foot and the water visibility of the water temperatures are under 70, like I said, skipping a shaky head, skipping a wacky rig, skipping a Ned rig under the docks is going to be a really good way to catch them on it. And if the water visibility is over 3 feet and you have some cold water, my favorite way to fish it is on a jerk bait. I'll take that, like I said, that jerk bait and fish it around the corners and the sides. Really good way to catch it. You can also catch some fish on them as long as you have water visibility over 2 foot by skipping a frog. You know, skipping a frog up underneath the shade of those floats is a really good way to catch them. So anyway, guys, floats are awesome bass cover. They're sort of a pain in the butt to fish. Your casting has got to be on target. That's the whole key about fishing boat floats, is you got to be a good caster. If you don't know how to cast very good and you just slop them around there and don't get tight to them, you're not going to catch many bass. But for the people that want to put the time in and really work on your skipping skills and your pitching and flipping skills, it's a really good way to catch them. Another thing about it that'll really help you guys out around the floats with the skipping is try to do it with a spinning rod. A spinning rod is so much easier to use than a bait caster for skipping. You see a lot of dudes skipping bait casters in there, but guys, it's harder than it looks, and you can be a lot more efficient with a spinning outfit. So it's going to help you guys catch some more. Give it a try. Like I said, I prefer lakes that didn't have any docks on it. I don't like, we talked about this before, I don't want to see any sign of civilization when I'm fishing. I don't want to see a jet ski out there. I don't want to see a dock. I don't want to see a house up on the bank. But that's the reality we find ourselves in, so we have to adapt to the situation. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't. That would really be a big deal if you could do that. So we'll talk to you guys later. See you.